The devil's in the detail, but we did beat Richmond.
Johnson goes to deny. Step back. Big play.
It's got you here.
Jones doesn't go the tip by Broom. Up ahead, Harper.
Hello and welcome to this episode of War Eagle Weekly. How are we doing tonight, Josh?
Doing good, man. We got a victory today.
Yes, we did.
Auburn basketball on a Sunday.
Yeah, it was very unusual. I wasn't ready for it. In fact, I actually forgot what time it was that it was playing. All of a sudden, I get a notification that the game is about to start, and I'm upstairs and had to run downstairs to turn on the game. Interrupted my children's TV time, but oh well, Daddy had to watch the game. Well, let's first talk about the Blue Devil game. I mean that's really where we need to start.
It was a 9v5 game. It was a 9v5 game, and it was so apparent.
Yeah, it really did feel that way. We sat there. We lost 84-78 in Cameron Indoor Arena. The crowd was absolutely electric, and I would even venture to say that it was probably the most hostile environment we have ever played in.
Yeah, I would say so.
And I would say that it probably, outside of the Alabama games, I feel like I don't know if I've heard Neville that loud. It's close, but that was I wasn't ready for that. And the students came juiced, man. They came ready to go.
I mean, it was very loud as well because over 1,000 Auburn fans were in Cameron Indoor. It's the largest opponent crowd that Cameron Indoor has ever seen, which is crazy to me. So our own crazies contributed to the fact of how loud it was. That's for sure.
They did. And I mean, it was very apparent during when we made shots, that strong start. You could hear the Auburn crowd just really into it. And so kudos to those that traveled to the game, because it just makes it easier for these guys. But we started out really hot. Miles Kelly was just on fire. He was in fuego. And then we kind of got cold, and the Blue Devils kind of came back, Josh. And after that, it was just all refs.
I mean, it was so many refs. It was so friggin' frustrating to watch that game.
Yeah.
I mean, when one team is shooting 27 free throws to the other team's 12 for the entire game, I mean, there's something fishy going on there. But there's so much flopping going on from Duke's players, especially is his name Cooper Flagg? Is that his name?
Flagg,
yeah. He was doing a lot of flopping. There's a lot of pushing in the back on moving screens from Duke.
Seemed like it.
It was. I know we were texting about this during the game. You're like, well, that's what Duke gets when they're inside Cameron. It's just a bunch of horse crap when that's just the norm. That shouldn't be the norm. You take away half of those free throws because they only made 63% of their free throws, I think.
Yeah, it was.
You take away half of those, Auburn wins by a friggin' landslide. Yeah, they shot 63% from free throw, and it's just there was a lot of things that we learned, good and bad, from this team. There were, I think, one of the bad things that Auburn learned, but it could also turn into a good thing, is JP Buckeyes just cannot hang when it comes to defending elite ball players or even serviceable ball players. I know he was such a huge get in the transfer portal, but man, has he been.
We thought he was
probably the biggest disappointment of the season so far. The good that we took away from it, in my opinion, is the fact of how good our team is after halftime. Halftime adjustments from this team is insane. And the guys that do play defense freaking hard.
Yeah.
Before halftime, Auburn was getting out rebounded pretty friggin' bad by
It was
Duke.
ugly.
It was very bad. But at the end of the game, Auburn out rebounded Duke by 5 rebounds, which is surprising to me. Janai Broom had to
Didn't
fight
feel
for
like
literally every stat he got that game. And I saw a lot from everybody on the team. It just sucks that we had to fight 4 extra players on the court in the 4 extra refs.
Now, see here,
so apparent.
Everyone wants to talk about the refs, and yeah, we'll talk about the refs because there was some bad stuff. But like you pointed out, JP Pegues, I believe, was on the floor when that freshman went off and started going on that big run and started hitting everything. And he was the one that was trailing behind. Now, after we made adjustments in the first half and put someone else on him, he was still getting away. Okay, so we had to make that adjustment at halftime because he was running off screens, he was running off double screens, and we just weren't hanging with him. Okay.
Well, he put up 1 shot in the second half and made 0.
Yeah, and that's because we changed how we were approaching his defense. So the thing is, though, is you can't let someone go off for 18 points in the first half. That's a recipe for losing the game. Then you throw in the fact that we were getting out rebounded, which is what I told you. I told you this is the game right here, is us getting out rebounded as badly as we were. The 18 points by the freshmen, they weren't up by that much at halftime. It was a 6-point game, I believe.
Let's see here. It was a 7-point Duke lead.
So I wasn't worried about the freshmen. Like you said, Bruce Pearl and this coaching staff makes great halftime adjustments, and I knew that we'd come out and be better on the defensive end. We were defending Cooper Flagg really well in the first half, but it was just the rebounds and the second chance points that they were able to put up. That was the issue that I had in the first half, and that's the reason why we lost the game, is because of how bad the offensive rebounding was. Defensive rebounding was at times in this game. There's not very many teams out there that is longer and bigger than Auburn, and which is, it's new to us because we've had so many smaller guards in the past few years, but this year specifically, I feel like this is the longest team that Bruce Pearl has had in a very long time, but Duke was clearly bigger than us. Like, it just looked like that they were.
Their sizes were.
Yeah, they had freaking Mr. Fantastic out there. Just, you were like, where the hell did he come from? But you and I talked about this before the game, and in our preview episode of the Duke game, nobody's stats jumped off at us. Even Cooper Flagg. We're like, everybody's talking about this guy, but he wasn't really anything special on paper. And then within 2 minutes of the game starting, you and I both texted each other and we're like, okay, we see it.
Play.
Yeah,
He's kid very good.
Unbelievable.
He's got a bright future ahead of him. But in my opinion, though, I mean, you put this game on a neutral court 4 more times, Auburn's winning 4 of those games. And I believe that to my core. And I meant to mention this earlier when I was talking about things that we learned from the game. Guess how many 3-point shots that Miles Kelly has missed in the last 2 games?
Last 2 games, I would probably say 2 or 3.
2. Yep. He is 8 for 10 since the Duke game on 3-point shots. Miles Kelly found his range. He found his motion, and he's kept the fire burning. And it's looking really good. And everyone knows he can shoot. He just found everything he was looking for to be a consistent shooter in that Duke game. So, like I said, I'd rather have a quality loss like this early on in the season rather than getting closer to March.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I texted you and I was like, well, hey, now we don't have to worry about this team going undefeated. We don't have to put that stress on us. We got a good quality loss at Cameron Indoor Arena. Nobody is talking bad about Auburn after that game. In fact, there's a lot of people that are just like, yeah, if that's anywhere else, Auburn should win that game. And I will say, I think that Duke team is a team that can make a big difference in March. And I think that they are only going to get better because I thought we had a very big advantage. The fact that it was a big game. We had played big games, bigger games than Duke had played up to that point. And I thought that their freshmen couldn't handle it. I think their freshmen did pretty good. And so as the year goes on, this Duke team is going to be difficult to deal with no matter who plays them. And if we see them again in March, I'm not going to be as worried, but they will, I will be a little bit worried. Now, let's talk about the refs and let's talk about the fouls and the discrepancy, because 12 free throws for us, that was a lot of that came at the very end of the second half, it seemed.
Yeah, too little, too late.
Up to one point, it was like we had 4 to their 20-something, and it was ridiculous. Now, there was a huge 5-point swing at the very beginning of the second half that that happened, and it changed the entire outcome of the game. It really did. And that was Dylan Cardwell running down the court, going up for a block, the Duke player making the shot, Dylan Cardwell going for the ball, and his arm still hitting this guy in the head.
I cannot believe that was called a technical foul.
They called it a flagrant.
Flagrant. I can't believe it. Can't believe it.
Yeah. So
even the announcers were stunned.
Yep. He gets the 2 buckets. He gets 2 free throws. He makes one of them, and then Duke gets the ball, and they make that next shot. It's a 5-point swing, and after that, it was just an uphill climb that we couldn't quite close out. Like you said, Janai Broom was fighting for everything he had. He wasn't getting calls. He wasn't, he just was not getting the calls that he normally gets. But I also am wondering, because we talked about the fact that Duke was getting a lot of tic-tacky calls, but it seems like this Auburn team fouls a lot. We've done it in every game. And then we're getting out. We're not getting to the line as much as we're putting people to the line. Teams are getting into the bonus a lot quicker than we are.
Yeah.
So is this something that we need to be concerned about? Because this is a veteran team, and for them to be committing as many fouls as they are, I personally think it's a little alarming. What do you think?
I personally think that's part of Bruce Pearl's strategy when it comes to games, because he wants all of his players to be as physical as they can, but not be dirty. But he's like, I know they're going to commit some fouls. It's just they have to keep their offensive production to keep up with the fouls that they do commit. I think I'm not too concerned about the fact that we've committed 34 total fouls in the last 2 games, 20 of them against Duke and 14 against Richmond. Like I said, I don't believe it's something to be concerned about, because it is part of Bruce Pearl's strategy to keep their offensive flow, to disrupt their flow and prevent it from get going, and keep them at the charity stripe and allowing us to run the offense that we want to run and score the points that we want to score. I feel like that's just his way of thinking that's the best way to control the game. Because when you have guys like Chad Baker-Mazara, Dylan Cardwell, Janai Broom, and Denver Jones, I mean, you can't expect them to only commit a couple fouls a game. Those are physical players.
And I don't think that those are the guys that are committing most of the fouls. It is Chaney Johnson. It is Pegues. It is Pettiford. Pettiford is committing a lot. It's Cameron Moore, and it is Dylan Cardwell. Dylan Cardwell has been on a foul tear lately, but
he has the entire time he's been at Auburn.
Yeah, but it's just the way he plays. So it's not the big players. It's just it seems to happen a lot from the people that we need to have in the game, like Pettiford. Pettiford at the end of the Duke game was on fire. We needed him to close out that game, but Bruce had to pull him because he had 4 fouls, and he didn't go back to him in the last, I think, 3 or 4 minutes. And I think we could have really used him. Pettiford, and not just that, not in the sense that he had been out there for a while, so we had to pull him, and that's the reason why he didn't play. But we had to change when he got entered into the game because of how many fouls he had. Bruce wasn't able to
Yeah.
play him the way he wanted to play him. And we need Pettiford to figure this out, because that dude has got to be a piece down the stretch.
I'm sure he will get it figured out. We're only, was it 9 games into the season, or 9 or 10 games? Yeah, 9 games in the season. It's still a super early year, and he's a freshman, so he's going to get some of these things ironed out. Bruce Pearl's going to get him in line. He's going to coach him up, because honestly, Todd Pettiford is one of the most coachable point guards that Bruce Pearl has had since 2019, maybe. All the other point guards they think that they're on top of the world and they don't need the coaching, whereas Pettiford is more than willing to listen to his coach and learn from his mistakes. We've seen him grow every single game this entire season. He plays his best ball in the biggest games,
He does.
but he also plays very physical in those big, huge games. A couple of the fouls on Pettiford against Duke, I was like, that's bull crap. Like, what do you expect him?
There were
Like,
a couple.
he went straight up against flag, and they called a blocking foul on him, which was crap. But I mean, I do agree with you. Todd Pettiford does need to slow it down, quit being so aggressive on the defensive side of the ball, and trust his teammates to help him out whenever he needs the help.
Yeah. And I think that's the key right there, what you just said. He needs to learn that he can trust his teammates on the defensive end, especially when he has Janai Broom out there, because that him being a shot blocker can take away some of the difference an offensive player can have if he gets past Pettiford. And so I think Pettiford just needs to understand when to go all out and when to just dial it back. But when you have 3 fouls, man, you got to play a lot smarter than what he was playing against Duke. And the other thing is the graphic on the screen right here show it. I didn't realize Duke shot 50% from the field. I mean,
yeah, dude.
It was bad defense played in the first half. Very bad defense. I think the second half field goal percentage for Duke was probably considerably lower than what it was in the first half. But yeah, I'm just concerned about how many fouls we're giving up. I agree, it is Bruce's system. It's the way he plays the game, but it just seems like we're a little high in the discrepancy for sure. We need to get to the line a lot more, but I don't know. I'm just a little concerned about it.
Well, I mean, Bruce's his offense doesn't call for a lot of guards driving into the lane very often, and a lot of the times, though, that's where your fouls are going to come from. A lot of the times, it's perimeter shooting and Janai Broom backing down his defender, and so I mean, you're not going to get a whole lot of fouls when that's your offense. So
that's fair.
Again, I'm not too concerned about the foul discrepancy, because it really is. It's not one of those things that he can't control, because he's telling his players to be physical. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about.
Well, speaking of back to the basket and playing the inside out game, today Auburn played Richmond and beat them 98-54. I told you that at the end of the first half, we started to pull away, and I knew that the second half was going to get pretty ugly, and sure did it get ugly. Just an absolute great game. We were hot and cold throughout the game. We didn't shoot the best we have all season, but we still shot 47, almost 48% from the field. And defensively, though, that's, I think, is where we really shined against Richmond. They had several turnovers in the first couple minutes of the game.
I mean, that's what you want to. Are you talking about Auburn having several turnovers at the first part of the game?
We caused Richmond to have several turnovers at the very beginning of the game.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what you want. I know when the second half began, Richmond had was it how many turnovers they have this game?
It was 15 turnovers. That's
there
on the screen.
I think it is. So I think beginning of the second half, Richmond had 8 turnovers to Auburn's 0. And that's kind of crazy as a crazy stat, because you don't ever really see that. But coming off such a hard fought game against Duke, it was It was a nice fresh breath there to see that our team was still gonna put the friggin' gas on people and just show
It could have
that
been
they're
a
not gonna let
trap
that walk.
game.
It could have
It
been.
could have been a trap game, but they came out. They were feeling it, and like you said, didn't have a turnover in the first half. And I give you one guess who was the first turnover.
It was
in the
Chad. I
second
watched
half.
it.
It was Chad.
It was Chad. He does a stupid bounce pass.
Oh my gosh, he always makes one of those passes, which I mean, you take it from him because he's just such an electric player, and so you're just like, okay, all right, we'll take that, Chad. But he seems to always have one play where you're just like, really, dude, come on.
I mean, it's okay. It's not something that affected the outcome of the game.
No,
so it really is okay. But what impressed me the most about Chad Baker Mazara in this game is he finished the game with 13 points on 5 for 8 shooting, and 1 for 3 on the 3-point line. He told reporters and his teammates that he's the one that chose to play less minutes today, so Ja'Kai Howard could have more minutes and more game time, and it friggin' paid off. Ja'Kai Howard finished the game on 5 for 9, 1 for 2 with 13 points and 4 rebounds. And that's really refreshing to see. It's really nice to see that we have depth at the small forward. We have depth, length, and defense at the small forward position when Chad Baker Mazara is not going to be on the court.
Yeah, we got to get Ja'Kai Howard involved more, and this was the perfect game that allowed it. And so I agree. It was definitely one of those situations where we didn't need Chad to go out there and hurt his knee more. We didn't need him to bust his ass like he always does, because he goes out there and, man, he gives 110% every time. It don't matter who's out there playing. He's just going to do it. He's just going to go. And it was a great game for Miles Kelly, who shot 4 for 7 from behind the arc, and Tahad Pettiford had a really good first half. And
he was not 4 for 7 from behind the arc, by the way.
Miles Kelly was 4 for 5 from behind the arc. Sorry, my bad. 4 for 7 total. But Tahad Pettiford was on fire in the first half, and really when Auburn was cold shooting the ball, he came in, and what does he do? He pops up from the logo and drains it. And how many times last year did we see that from Aiden Holloway? And it brick. And it's so nice to have a player that pulls up and hits those shots. And like you said, they showed a stat. He's averaging 18 points a game in games against top 25 KenPom teams and games.
That's crazy.
So the dude is going to be huge, like we've already talked about it, heading down the stretch. So the other thing I wanted to bring up about this Richmond game is man, JP Pegues. I thought that this was going to be the game that we really saw him get used a lot and be able to have a good game, but he's just it's not working for him. I don't know what.
He played his minutes with the walk-ons in this game, which that should be embarrassing for him. I wanted him to be. He averaged 18 points a game at Furman. I wanted him to cut. If he averaged half of that, I'd be super happy with that. But he's not even averaging a tenth of what he averaged at Furman, and it's super frustrating. I'm like, I don't understand why he can't grasp Bruce Pearl's offense and trust his teammates, because he is one of the most hesitant players I've ever seen in the history of me watching basketball.
Yeah. He looks lost out there on the court, even against Richmond, which I thought
he plays scared.
Really shine. Yeah. Which, hey, maybe he has the yips right now. Maybe he's at the point where he is scared and he's trying not to, he's forcing not doing something wrong.
Dude, I'm not falling into that trap again this year, because I said that all last year about Aiden Holloway, and he never progressed, not once. Going back on the bright side of things, though, you're talking about KenPom. Guess who's still number 1 on KenPom? Auburn.
Yeah.
Auburn's number 1, Tennessee number 2, Duke 3. And I mean that just speaks volumes.
Duke,
for one,
number 3
for Duke, and Auburn still being number 1 after losing. Everybody was concerned about Auburn's ability to perform on the road compared to last year, and Auburn's shutting everybody up and proving everybody wrong, and then continued to impress still against Richmond.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Saturday. That's for damn sure.
So Auburn wins against Richmond. 40-plus points is the differential. But what is something that we can take away from the Richmond game, do you think? What's something that we can look at and say, okay, this is going to help us down the line?
I don't know if I can, because everything we've seen from every single one of the games that we've watched and Auburn's played this season, I still don't think Auburn has peaked. So I think that's something we can take away from these last couple games, is that Auburn still has a lot of room to grow, but while they're growing, they are still dominating and they're still playing really good basketball. The one thing that I know for a fact I did take away from Richmond is the fact that Janai Broome is human. He is not going to get 22 points a game every single game, because he only had 11 points and 5 rebounds in this entire game. And I mean, it's kind of crazy to say that, because I think he's the nation's leader for player of the year. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
and he was leading the nation in rebounds heading into this game.
Yeah.
And something along the same lines that you just hit on. The thing that I'm taking away from this is Bruce clearly made rebounding a priority in practices leading up to this game, because it looked like everybody was out there fighting Janai Broome for rebounds. We were fighting against ourselves more than the Richmond players were there. And you could tell that Janai was getting frustrated.
He was clear.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Bruce put a challenge to the team and was like, I need somebody to out-rebound Janai Broome today. And if there's somebody that does not, I wonder if they were going to be running suicides or something. Because that's what it seemed like. They were all out there running around. I mean, listen to the rebound total here. We got Janai Broome, 5. Dylan Cardwell, 5. Chad Baker-Mazara, 6. Denver Jones, 5. Miles Kelly, 5. Chaney Johnson, 6. Jakai Howard, 4. Chris Moore, 4. Tahad Pettiford, 3. I mean,
you don't see those numbers.
Involved.
You don't see those numbers in past games. It's all Chaney, it's all Janai, it's all Chad, but everybody had pretty much the same rebound mark. Only one person on the roster out rebounded Janai, and that was Chad. It's kind of crazy to see all your players getting involved in rebounds like that. And that's probably why we out rebounded Richmond by 15 or 18. Sorry. That's a huge disparity. It's just, you're probably right. You're probably right that the fact that Bruce challenges players to go out there and actually try to out rebound Janai.
Yeah, had to have been the case. So, well, moving right along, let's talk about the upcoming game against Ohio State in the Holiday Hoops Giving in Atlanta, Georgia. Auburn is playing Ohio State on the what day was that? Saturday the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, I don't know what to think about this game, Josh. I don't know who Ohio State is. They've been up and down. They've lost some games this year that just do not make sense. And I mean, they're scoring over 80 points a game and they're holding opponents to less than 70. So, okay, yeah, I mean, they look good in most games, but what do you think? What do you think this game is going to be? Because I can't figure it out.
Let's see here, from their last slate of games. Let's see here if my computer will work.
They lost to Pittsburgh in overtime, and they lost to Maryland.
Steamrolled by Maryland.
83-59. Yeah.
Yeah, they got steamrolled by Maryland, and then the Maryland lost to Purdue by 5, and Purdue lost to Marquette by 20. So it's just one of those things where Ohio State could possibly get hot, because if you look at the stats, they're pretty similar. They're averaging 82.2 points a game. Auburn's averaging 85.6. They're allowing 66.2. We're allowing 68.8. We got 1% better on field goal percentage. We're averaging 1 more rebound, 3 more assists, 2 more blocks, and 0.7 less steals a game. So on paper, it's a game that this definitely could be a trap game. But to be honest, with it being in Atlanta and the fact that Auburn's crowd travels probably better than any other team in the country.
Yeah.
I know technically it's not a home game, but it's going to feel like one.
Yeah, and we tend to play so well in Atlanta. Last year we played Indiana and smoked them in this game.
Yep.
And so you got to feel pretty good in that standpoint. But Ohio State is shooting pretty good on the year at 50%. I mean, they haven't played anybody. Actually, they played Texas, number 19 Texas, number 23 Texas A&M. So, I mean, they have played people, but all their other games are against, lower level teams. So I just don't know what to think about this game. And so it's going to be, like you said, it could be a trap game. And hopefully Bruce is able to keep this team focused on just outperforming and doing the best that they can. Do you think we're going to see any changes to the starting lineup, or do you think it's probably going to be the same? We're going to get the Twin Towers out there.
I think we're going to keep rolling with the Twin Tower lineup, because I know Bruce had even commented saying that he liked the look of the offense and the way it rolled with those two out there, and he really liked the defense out there. It's kind of hard when you have defenders like Janai, Dylan, and Chad, plus Denver all on the court at the same exact time. If you want your team to get out to a hot start and keep your opponent cold, that's probably the best defensive lineup you're going to get.
I would agree.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, and the fact that, Chad Baker-Mazara is shooting 47% on the season from 3-point. Now that's going to play into a huge part of your offensive game plan.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true. Chad is right now playing outside of Janai Broom. He is definitely our MVP, I feel like. So I didn't put it on the docket to talk about this, but do you think we're going to see JP Buckeyes in this game?
If we start steamrolling them late in the second half, I don't suspect he'll get too many meaningful minutes with the game on the line, unless Tahad and Denver get into some serious foul trouble.
Okay.
So I wouldn't really expect it.
Yeah, because he had 4 minutes against Duke, which I think it felt like he had like 40 just because Duke went off while he was out there.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then against Richmond, how many minutes did he have against Richmond? He had 4 against Richmond as well. So we're probably going to see. We're probably going to see him for about 4 minutes. So maybe that's what we're going to see. I don't know. I just, anytime he's out there on the floor, he's a liability offensively, defensively, and I don't know what they need to do to get him going, because we do need him. We do need him, Josh.
Yeah, I don't know
how much foul trouble Pettiford gets in. We need him.
We definitely do need him. Again, I want him to be able to figure it out. I just don't know if he will, because every time he shoots up a shot, you can look at his face with the hope that it's going to go in, and as soon as it doesn't go in, he looks 110% defeated. And I hate seeing that on his face, because he came here from Furman for a reason. He wanted to prove to himself and all the NBA scouts that he can play with the big boys. And right now he is just
his confidence
regretting the decision. Yeah, it's not good. So he needs a confidence boosting game. Who knows? It could come against Ohio State, or it could come against Georgia State the following week. But I really don't suspect we'll see a whole lot of him, not unless Auburn is really moving things along in the second half.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, Auburn is starting the season in excellent shape. They're looking absolutely fantastic, possibly one of the best teams in the country, with Janai Broome looking like the National Player of the Year. And outside of that little slip up,
They are the best team in the country.
Ooh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
I love it.
110% they are, because, number one team, Kansas Jayhawks, they've just lost 2 games in a row.
That's true.
They just lost 76-67 to friggin' Missouri. So,
Yep.
they are not the best team in the country.
Goes back to what I was telling you about how the SEC is going to be a gauntlet, dude. It's going to be a rough ride. It's going to be a real rough ride. Well, with that, Joshua, War Eagle, and I'll see you next week.
Or damn Eagle.
Johnson kills the deny. Step back. Big play.
It's got you here.
Jones doesn't go. The tip by Broome. Up ahead, Harper.